The Western Cape ANC, together with the community group Parents for Equal Education, have filed an application. This is in the Constitutional Court over the high number of learners who still have not been placed at schools in the province. Let's get a response now from the Western Cape Education MEC, Debbie Schaefer. MEC, a pleasure to have you on the program this evening. So as you heard a short while ago, many allegations being made here, including a lack of political will to ensure that, that learners are actually placed in schools for this academic year. What's your initial response to this?
Thanks, Nhlonhla, and it's good to be with you. Yes, obviously I am constrained somewhat to discuss the merits in any detail because the papers were only served on us properly yesterday, and I certainly haven't had a chance to read them yet, nor get legal advice. But there are a few general points that I do need to make. First of all, the ANC hasn't taken us to court actually because they aren't party to the action at all. Neither the ANC nor members Syed nor Vanessa Leroux are parties to the matter. They unfortunately choose instead to use innocent community members as the applicants to try and ensure that they avoid liability for costs in the event that they lose. They've also cited me in my personal capacity, not only in my capacity as MEC, whilst I'm clearly acting as MEC. And I'm advised that the papers do make allegations that are extremely personal and vindictive, and this real shows what the actual motive is. It's a complete political opportunism of the worst kind, and it's really, in my view, setting a new and very low bar. Secondly, I heard your comment about President Ramaphosa and divisive elements, but I find it really strange that the ANC is taking action against their own minister. Now, they, and maybe they're in different factions, but to take on their own national minister as well is quite historic, I would imagine. But the most important part is that all the learners that were unplaced are now placed. The number changes, of course, from day to day as more people come and go. Just last week, for example, and we had another 3 children who'd moved from another province to come to the Western Cape needing a school. So from day to day, these numbers do change, but the big numbers that we had earlier have now all been offered places at a school. So that's a crucial point, on what basis are they actually approaching the court, and then the Constitutional Court at that. Known to us. She makes regular appearances before elections. Her association with the ANC is well known and quite overt now. And she's been involved before in the Save Our Schools cases. Now she's created a new organization, and I haven't heard of them before. But the fact of that is she previously made many allegations against us about unplaced learners in Mitchell's Plain, and when we asked for proof of those allegations, they were not forthcoming, despite us offering to go and fetch the list from her. So, it's also quite an exceptional step to approach the Constitutional Court directly, especially for a remedy for something that hasn't happened. Learners are placed at the moment. We've done a lot of work on that. We even appeared before the National Portfolio Committee in the National Assembly recently, and they were also satisfied. Obviously, we have problems with, we have been saying that for a long time, that we have severe funding constraints, which is a direct result of the ANC. So any court application is going to have to include the ANC and the national government in this situation, because if the Constitutional Court deems it appropriate to hear the matter as a court of first instance, there are going to have to be many more parties added to the matter to ensure that the court has all the facts available to make an informed decision. But allegations of political opportunism are absolutely rejected. We are working extremely hard. We always do. The budget cuts from the national government, which is a direct result of the ANC's mismanagement and theft, quite frankly, are huge contributing factors to the situation that we currently do find ourselves in. And to try and look at it, School Evaluation Authority, which is really just a replacement for the national policy of whole school evaluation, and in fact is extremely valuable to us. It's really going to make a huge difference to accountability in education, which the ANC clearly doesn't want. We completely reject those allegations.
So it's interesting you say that this is just another case of political opportunism, but you would agree that there are some very damning allegations that are made here. I mean, apart from listening to the aspect about the issue of learner migration from one province to another, you raise an interesting point here about you having to experience budgetary constraints within your department. Just explain that aspect to us and the impact that this has on ensuring that pupils are placed in schools.
Sure, thanks. Obviously, the national financial crisis is affecting all of us, and it's affected the Western Cape for many years because it's not only us, it's also Gauteng. They also have huge numbers of learners migrating from one province to theirs or other provinces to theirs. So there's a combination of factors. Over the last number of years, we've seen a huge and consistent increase of around about an average of 20,000 learners per year coming to the Western Cape. So it doesn't take any genius to understand that that really requires an additional school per 1,000, for example. So it's about another 20 schools per year. In 2014, there was a 3-year wage agreement also, which was put a huge strain on our budget because it's negotiated nationally and we have to then fund it. So we don't get additional money for that, and that wasn't within our budget. It was agreed at a percentage far above what we had budgeted for by national government, yet they did not give us the money. So combined with the increase in learners coming, the wage increases that we weren't compensated for, plus the effects of the financial crisis we find ourselves in now. First of all, we were not getting adequate money for the learners that were coming here in time. National Treasury has started to do that. Don't want to take the money away from other provinces straight away, but yet we still have to provide for them straight away. So that's one of the issues. And then, of course, the drought we had a few years ago, we had to divert a lot of money from our infrastructure budget. It was about 300 million for drought measures. And then last year, of course, there was COVID implications. So we had to spend about 450 million of our infrastructure budget because there was nowhere else we could take the money from to buy sanitizers and so on and so forth. So there's that, plus now the wage, the funding crisis is cutting the budget. So any compensation we do get is first of all delayed, and then second of all, it's now negated by the fact that our overall MTF budget is being decreased substantially.
Well, there you've heard it from the MEC for Education in the Western Cape. That's Debbie Schaefer. She says she rejects the allegations that learners are not placed in schools and what have been called excuses on her part when it comes to budgetary constraints that have been raised and the issue of learner migration to other provinces. Stay